Good to see you again. How are you doing?
Good, good. And thank you so much for having me.
Of course, of course. Yeah, we haven't chatted in a couple months, but I guess maybe my audience doesn't know who you are. But would you like to give a quick introduction?
Yes, my name is Dr. Cecilia Dones, and I am the founder and chief data officer of Three Standard Deviations. It's a boutique firm. We help organizations figure out how to do this AI thing. And on the side, I am an educator as well. So I teach AI ethics. And so I think about, talk about, and wonder about a lot about how do we treat each other in the context of all of this technology.
That's a good question. Maybe we'll start with that. I mean, it's no secret, especially right now in the U.S., things seem kind of wacky, to put it politely. How do we treat each other in this new age of AI?
Uh, I think, first of all, the framing, maybe it's more of how do we treat each other when the speed of change seems to be happening so quickly.
That's one way of
Um,
looking at it. Yeah.
Yeah. And something that I've come to realize in more of my own personal practice is that I'm finding myself recalling the instructions when you take off on an airplane regarding the masks, just in case the air pressure
Mhm.
drops. You have to put the face mask on yourself before you're able to help any others. And the reason why this is important, I think for me at least today, is that it is very easy to get somewhat lost in all of the news and all of the excitement and all of the disappointment and all of the nervousness and anxiety around how technology will change the way we live our lives. That sometimes by doing so and getting lost, you forget about, oh, wait, what's happening around me right now? Who am I actually interacting with right now? How can I actually help somebody that I see that is real in front of me right now? And so taking a moment to say, okay, there's a lot going on there, and it's very, very big. And yes, it does have the potential to change everything. It's important to also recognize that I'm alive right now. Oh, I can help people right now. And those people are the people around me. So, yes, big picture, but also remembering that our lives are lived locally. Our lives are lived in a geographic space. So, did you say hello to the person who makes your coffee? Have you said hello to the and really checked in with the if you have children, the teachers of your children, or the soccer coach, or the person who does your nails or your hair? These are all people in your lives that you can actually help by recognizing their dignity.
Yeah, I think there's a lot. And where are you located?
I am based in New York City at the moment, and I am speaking to you from New York City.
Nice. I live in Salt Lake City, Utah, a very different place, I would say.
Okay.
So, yeah, yeah. But New York's interesting, right? Maybe we can talk about that because it's, I think, considered the melting pot, and however you want to describe it. That's at least the impression that a lot of people have of New York. What are some ways that you're reaching out to your local community and I think trying to help people?
Yeah, I hear you. I understand. I learned the melting pot analogy.
Is it true actually in New York? You live there. Is it accurate to frame it that way, or how would you describe it?
Well, in my head, I think of melting pot like everything getting squished and cooked together.
Yeah.
And so it becomes like one amalgamous blob. I don't think New York City is like that. I think it's more like fusion cuisine, meaning the best parts of who you are and what you've brought to the city still remains. But there's also new flavors, new nuances because you're also interacting with everyone else. So I tend to call it more like fusion as opposed
Okay.
to melting. And also, it's a personal thing. I find melting and sweating and being too hot not so good. So the change of weather into fall is actually quite beautiful in the Northeast at
Well, yeah,
this
because
time.
you actually do melt in the summers in the east.
Yes, there is a there is a very I'm known for saying this. There's a very specific aroma that pervades New York City in
Yes,
the summers.
I've experienced this before.
Yes,
Yeah, and I've never smelled that anywhere else except New York City. So it's
yes.
yeah, whatever fusion cuisine that city creates, it's I wouldn't say it's pleasant, but it's New York.
Yes, very true. And to answer your question regarding like how do I help others and kind of
Hmm.
practice what I talk about as well, I do a good amount of public speaking around groups that are just looking for ideas around leadership when it comes to the context of technology, diversity leadership, marginalized leadership. I do volunteer for advocacy groups and other groups related to marginalized and potentially vulnerable populations as well. And so I find giving time and attention to those spaces and places where others may struggle to feel seen or struggle to feel heard, I think is such a great way to kind of create and hold the space to practice that kind of human dignity. Sometimes when I write like an angry blue sky or a
You
very
do that?
emphatic promotion on LinkedIn to just all the internet points. Sometimes it feels like speaking into the void, meaning speaking into the ones and zeros. You don't really feel anything. But I find that when you're actually talking to someone and in real life and you feel their physicality and you sense their presence and seeing the recognition in their eyes that they finally feel heard, they finally feel recognized. That's an experience I would say I would want for everyone to experience.
Yeah, I think it depends on your personality too,
Yeah.
right? It's weird. I'm extroverted, but I'm also very introverted when I'm back home. I uh,
Hmm.
I don't really leave. I ride my bike places, maybe to the barber. He's funny because he has Tourette's, so he's just hilarious to talk to. And he's, yeah, but it's interesting. And then I might go help out at the school, talk to my I talk to my kids' teachers usually, but it's more out of annoyance than it is to understand because they're just like, why are you the way you are? And it's interesting because in a city where I live, everything is pretty geographically dispersed. So it's more like Los Angeles in that sense, where it's not really a walkable place, right?
Hmm.
So community where I am is like there's my neighbors obviously, but if I see somebody, it's like I have to go drive and see them. It's not like I see them on a regular basis. And so yeah, anyway, it's more of an observation on my end. Maybe I'm just not getting out enough. I mean, I go to the climbing gym on a regular basis. I see people there who I know for years, and that's cool. But I don't know. I feel disconnected from my community. I'll be honest. To the extent I help people, I've been known to give just random homeless people. I'll go talk to them and give them something, right?
Hmm.
Trying to help them out, but I want to understand their personal circumstances and
Hmm.
sort of what they've been through. But yeah, I could probably do better in this area for sure. So I don't
Uh,
know.
Put on the face mask first, meaning self compassion. The fact you found a third space for yourself, meaning we used to say that your first place and your second place in space was your work and home. And the argument at the time was okay, maybe the church or synagogue or a place of worship could be the third. As technology has developed over time and as people have become accustomed to interacting with each other virtually and digitally, those kind of third places are kind of going away. It came back in a
Hmm.
big way during the pandemic because we were kind of all
Yeah.
figuring out how do we talk to each other. And so we created these spaces. But as we've come back to a new way of interacting with each other in a hybrid way, we've lost those spaces again. And so the fact you have a climbing gym where you have people that recognize who you are, and I suspect if you didn't go for a while, somebody might notice.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful
But I mean, I've been
place.
going there since like the late '90s.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, but it's interesting. I mean, I think that particular spot too, it's all about community. It's all about fostering,
Yeah.
local community, and it's something you don't find. I think in a lot of increase. I don't know. No matter where I travel in the world, it feels like that sense of community is disappearing. To the extent that people talk, it's on Discord or LinkedIn
Mhm.
or Blue Sky or wherever. We all have our digital tribes, so to
Mhm.
speak. The way I've found myself helping, there's this person in Syria actually who somehow survived the civil war they had there, and he's teaching data to the
Oh,
university
wow.
students there. Right. And I thought that was cool. And he wants to translate my upcoming book into Arabic. And I'm like, if that helps you teach your class and helps you get to where you need to go, I'm more than happy to help. I think that's cool, especially given the circumstances, right? So,
Mhm.
going through something that's unimaginable, like that.
Mhm.
I couldn't fathom it. But
Yeah.
what do you see in New York City though, right? Because I think my impression of New York is like whenever I'm there, people they don't they don't have time. They're very busy going about their life. Nobody says hi. It seems like a very cold place. Like how have you found any ways of being part of the I guess that third place as you describe it?
Okay, that's a very good question. Well, first of all, I find that New Yorkers we have a base level of anxiety.
Yeah, it's very visible.
We have an agenda, and therefore we're going to address that agenda. So I would say we're aggressively polite in the sense that maybe we won't say hello, but if you really are in need, there's numerous stories, and there's always going to be an anecdote around somebody who was really in need and a New Yorker stepped in. And so from that perspective, it's very fascinating to observe how everyone can be ever so busy. But
Mm-hmm.
when real things really happen and the sky is falling or something really traumatic happens, New Yorkers tend to gather together. And so from that perspective, it's actually quite lovely. But what I find how I kind of participate in the rhythm of things. Like you, I have found some way of being of a expression. So I do belong to a gym, but I guess some people may not know this about me actually. I was a former competitive ballroom dancer many,
Oh,
many moons ago. That is not the case now at all. However, and I left dance world, gosh, a long time ago. But I would say within the last 2-ish, 3-ish years, I've actually come back to partner dancing. And social partner dancing. And so now my main dance is Argentine Tango. And that itself is a community. So
yeah,
people know each other, and depending on how you enter, it could be quite open and friendly, or it can be quite competitive, or there's all
interesting.
these subcultures that goes along with it. And then there's those of us who are hybrids because we dance other things in addition to Argentine Tango, or we have other kind of physical histories in martial arts or something else, or yoga or gymnastics. And it's beautiful in that way because we're all just trying to find connection,
Mm-hmm.
an expression of that connection. The way we're choosing to do so is through dance.
Interesting. Kind of side question: do other forms of dance look at each other like, that's pretty cool or that's pretty lame? Like your style is okay, but you came from this school, you're doing Argentine tango now. Like, how do they view other styles of dance? I guess in a competitive mindset, or
Mm.
I know nothing about this world, but
No, no, it's okay. Well, I'm n equals one, right? We're data people, so n equals one. It's my experience. I couldn't generalize. What I do find is that first of all, the community is always very open. So if you want to try, just try. It doesn't matter. Um, what I also find about the community that's so fascinating is that those that have a lot of experience, they can tell your background a little bit. So when I
oh,
first
interesting.
started in Argentine tango a few years ago, and I would go to class and try to learn the steps or try to learn the movements. Someone had politely told me, "Wow, you're picking this up so quickly. You must have been a ballroom dancer." And I
Mm,
said, "Oh, that's interesting. Help me understand why." And this person said, "Well, you're dancing with an accent, a ballroom dance accent." And so I suspect, again, n equals one, that our backgrounds kind of reveal the way we move. And so just like for many of us, English may not be our first language, we bring a little bit of our background to it. So a little bit of an
mm-hmm.
accent, a little bit of a cultural nuance, which I think is beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Now, I've experienced similar things either in combat sports,
Yes.
or even climbing. So it's always interesting to compare notes with people in activities that are just completely outside of my existence. Probably the world's worst dancer. I wouldn't say the worst, but probably on the
I
top
hope.
list.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't
We're going
know.
to unpack this. We're going to unpack this. You mentioned martial
This will be the
arts.
podcast.
You mentioned martial arts, so you have some background.
Yeah, yeah, but
Are you okay with sharing which discipline, which subtype?
Well, I mean, it's
A little bit
wrestling,
of it.
jiu-jitsu,
Okay,
boxing, Muay Thai, traditional kind of
okay,
I wouldn't say
okay,
traditional, but that's the stack there.
okay.
No, I'm only joking about the dancing part. But it's
You're an excellent dancer. Got it.
thank you, so good, competitive. No, I'm kidding. Um, no, but it is interesting. I think people bring what I find interesting is how these experiences translate into other areas, right? So I know with um, like I'm not sure how dancing impacts how you view your work professionally. I know that having done these types of activities all my life, it impacts me in the ways where just how I dissect problems, how I think about things, how I go after problems, and also the types of things I usually want to avoid. So I think it's interesting how the your hobbies end up becoming more integrated than you think, I suppose.
Yes, I find some of the most high potential dancers are actually martial artists.
Oh,
And
interesting.
yes, and it's because partner dancing, you're hyper aware of the physicality and literally the physics of rotating and moving with another person in very close proximity. What do you do in jujitsu? What do you do in Muay Thai? What are you doing? Let's go outside of martial arts. What are you doing in boxing? You're hyper aware of the other person. So just translating some of those raw skills into another domain, I find it can work.
Yeah.
Depending on the injuries, right? Everyone comes with injuries, but
Right.
depending on what those injuries are, it could be work quite well. And I also find that in my professional life, where I use these movement practices quite often, is when the conversation starts to get difficult, the negotiation isn't going well. The client is starting to act a little bit cold. There's ambiguity now in the professional relationship, which has implications on revenue, implications on the business outcomes, et cetera, et cetera. I actually use the skills that I learned through my physical practice to listen, to understand that this person did my business partner come from a really horrific meeting and that's coloring their whole next conversation, and so we have to
Mm.
decompress from that. Or did I get a colleague that just went away to holiday for 2 weeks and they just came back? And some people land with a thud, some people land gracefully. Everyone's different. And so, do I have to understand that context? Or have I actually said something that is actually offensive to the other person? That happens.
Hmm.
Mistakes like that happen all the time in communication. Something I didn't mean. Obviously, I didn't try to offend that person, but it has. Am I listening enough to their nonverbal cues to understand, oh gosh, I've ruptured the relationship in some way. I need to repair it. And those are all things you kind of learn in the physical practice of partnering
Hmm.
that I find so helpful in business. And so it's actually a good segue. With technology and AI and what I've studied as part of my academic research, one of the challenges I think we have today is that with the excitement and plethora and the capabilities of new technologies, we're losing some of those traditional nonverbal signals, those social signals that help us to understand this is real. I can trust you. You're benevolent. Oh, you have competence. So it's kind of interesting to me, and we're taping at the beginning of October. It's interesting to me the latest AI actor or actress, Tilly Norman,
Oh
and
yeah.
how it's causing all sorts of conversations, not only in the creative community, in the IP community, they're probably very interested in that, and then generally just as an audience member, as a consumer of media, I'm also questioning. I don't have issues with anime. I don't have issues with cartoons. Those are completely fictional individuals. But would I have issue if it was an AI generated individual? I don't know.
Well, walk me through that. Is it just I think it's described as the uncanny valley that we
Mhm.
cross,
Yeah.
where you can't tell what's real and what's not.
Mhm.
I mean, I can give you my perspective if you want, but when I see, actors, AI actors, I'm trying to come up with a little misspelling here, AI actors or, images or whatever, it's becoming increasingly hard to tell the difference.
Mhm.
The images, AI generated images, even from a few years ago compared to now, it's not even a contest. These are
Mhm.
very, very good. Now, I read that some of the people at OpenAI are very concerned that Sora 2 was released because it's really good. Too good, in fact, like dangerously good. But the thing that concerns me is just we've been living in a world of mis and disinformation for, well, I mean, arguably for a very long time, but I think it's been
Mhm.
weaponized and algorithmized. That's not even a word, but the algorithms run a lot of the control a lot
Mhm.
of the who gets what content now, and I I'm concerned. I'm concerned for civilization. I think, and I'm not really exaggerating at this point. I think it would have been hyperbole a couple years ago, just given the state of the technology. But now it's getting, I
Mhm.
would say, dangerously good.
Mhm. Dangerously good. Yes, I love that phrase. I think that's a good description of the current moment. I think it begs questions around, okay, we know the car goes fast and we know that the roads may be a little bit slick. How come we don't have seatbelts in the car? How come we don't have airbags in the car? Why is the windshield not shatter resistant? So I was in
Oh, and the
recent.
driver's drunk too, by the way.
Okay, okay. The driver may be inebriated as well. Okay, fantastic.
I mean, that's our collective mind right now. It's just
Uh, really? I'm curious about that. I think for some of us, yes, agree. There's always going to be a wide dispersion of people using different tools, and you'll always get edge cases and corner cases of different use cases. So I agree. But I'm very curious about, I hang out in startup land, but in particular subsectors. So I hang out a lot in the mental health care tech space. And those individuals, they're not trying to create the chat GPT that will kind of encourage maladaptive or permanent types of negative behaviors, but they're actually trying to close the gap on, well, if we're all feeling lonely, how do we ease some of that? If there are individuals in vulnerable communities that need additional scaffolding and support to build those interpersonal skills that are sometimes maybe a little bit too far away with real people, can we build tools to scaffold that kind of skill building experience? For individuals that are having difficult times with addressing the reality of a loved one passing on or a relationship breaking, or something else that causes kind of that emotional trauma? Are there tools to kind of scaffold the healing process around that? So there are companies that are trying to do this well and using AI to do this well. However, it's always a challenge because the business models we have, the incentive structures of the
mhm.
ecosystem, their voices are never going to be as loud as some of the bigger players in the marketplace. And if you help people, you may not get as much coverage in certain forums as you would if it's a negative outcome. And so that's where I'm
What do you mean by that?
meaning these stories of good being done with AI. So, for
Hmm.
example, this was before kind of the big pushes around ChatGPT. So maybe 24. Um, I was attending a conference outside the US, and we were talking about the broader definition of AI. Not all AI is generative AI. And so the problem that this individual in their organization was trying to solve was in certain markets, there's an outsized amount of the population that is unbankable, meaning they do not have steady income. They're very difficult to trace. And therefore, having a bank account, which maybe for those of us in Western markets, we may feel like, what do you mean you can't open a bank account? That seems a little bit silly. In some markets, that's very much the case. And
Hmm.
so for these individuals, the lights may turn off from week to week, which means the refrigerator may, if they have one, may or may not work, which means that puts at risk their ability to put food on the table. Or maybe they only have enough money to pay for petrol for half a week. And therefore, trying to get to their job so they can get to a full week's earnings is quite difficult. And so this organization was trying to utilize AI, and really more like deep learning, to create micro lending situations that were not predatory, but really just to help individuals scaffold their financial situation such that they could participate in the economic side of things, go to work, go to school, all of those things. And this person said they were utilizing very non-traditional data signals. So waterways. I'm a big fan of this. They had mentioned geospatial data. So terrain data, the data around water, where water is, the data where roads are, traffic patterns, things like that, to kind of build these models to de-risk the micro lending to these individuals. And the initial testing that they were doing was showing that it was working. And so in this market where a good amount of the population couldn't work with a traditional bank because they're just not big enough, they're falling through the cracks, this organization was able to use technology and data to help these individuals keep the lights on, keep the fridge running, make sure that there's dinner on the table, petrol in the car so they can go to work. So that's a good thing. Okay, where are the news stories and magazine coverage and the documentaries around that? Not easy to find. We kind of tend to focus more on some of the negative outcomes, which is fair, right? If it's something is dangerous, we should probably know about it, right? It's better to hear the lion than to just see the lion in front of you. It might be too late. So I understand why negative news can move quickly, but I also want to recognize that good stuff is happening. It's just maybe a little bit more quiet.
Yeah, it is. I mean, but you talk about incentive structures too, and and rage is the one thing I think that it used to be like, sex appeal and other things would sell, but rage is a currency right now that sells a lot. That gets the eyeballs. It is what it is, and I don't agree with the way it is, but it's certainly what people, effectively doom scrolling everywhere I go in the world. It doesn't matter. It doesn't seem to matter. And I wish it wasn't the case. Like there's really good books out there, like Rational Optimist and a few others that focus on the macro trends in which there's good things happening. But it's part of me wonders if it's easier to just consume negative media because of dopamine or whatever. Like if I hear good stories, I'm like, that's nice, but now I think the dopamine addiction is how much rage can I feel in a day towards something or some group of people. At least that's my observation. Again, n equals one, but I feel like it's an n equals many type of problem that we're experiencing right now. And again, when you mention things like Tilly or Sora, this scares me a lot. I mean, so we live in very different places too. I live in Utah, right? There was I think a very infamous event that just happened here recently. It's a very red state. I kind of tune all of it out, but there's definitely a vibe where I think it's just a collective rage against something that's not us, right? And if it's not us, then you're obviously against us, and so that seems to be the vibe I'm seeing here and other places. And so, but yeah, when I see the president even using AI generated videos and whatnot, like he did, I think last night with the Grim Reaper footage, like that just is, it's concerning for sure. I don't see much good coming out of this.
In the near term, I agree with you. If there was a dial on uncertainty for where we both live in this country, I think the dial is turning very quickly in one direction. So we are increasing uncertainty. I think, though, where we have opportunity is that as I'm actually curious your opinion regarding OpenAI's, but Sora and their social network. Yay, we need another one. The fact that everything is synthetic, either I can see it in two ways. I can see one, either it's really training the populace to be very accustomed to everything being fake, everything being synthetic, and that's what that social network is for. Or It's really a funhouse mirror to reflect back to us, do we actually like the image or do we want to leave the funhouse now? And so I'm curious from your perspective, having a social network where they're pretty transparent that everything is synthetic,
Yeah.
that actually help the situation.
I would like to think so. I think people like you and me are thoughtful enough where we can entertain both sides of this argument,
Yes.
right? I don't have as much hope for the broader population. We're in a situation right now collectively where if you looked at the clock and it said 12:40,
Mm-hmm.
we would find some way to argue that one of us is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That collectively is where, not just in the US, but in a bunch of societies right now, that's where we are. And
Uh-huh.
so to even entertain the idea that, do we want to leave the funhouse? I find ways to do this personally all the time. I go
Oh,
do
interesting.
weird shit like read books and go on walks.
E-readers or real books?
Both. Both.
Okay.
E-reader if I'm traveling, because I don't want to have to carry books around. A bit of extra luggage. But I mean, I have thousands of books in my house.
Mm-hmm.
I've read a lot of them. And it's, that talking to people, I think podcasting is a nice release for me in this sense where I get a chance to talk to somebody like yourself, for an hour or two. And I think that's great. But it's a chance to unplug because otherwise, I can get on Perplexity. I can get on, there's all
Yeah.
synthetic all the
Yeah.
time. And it's, yeah. So what I've done is I set downtime on my phone.
Okay.
I set app downtime, app
Mm-hmm.
limits, all that stuff, because otherwise it's too easy. The dopamine rush, you
Uh-huh.
want to keep feeding it. And,
Uh-huh.
but, people like us, we somehow have crossed that bridge where we're able to even answer or ask the question, do we want out of the funhouse? I
Mm-hmm.
don't get the sense that most people are there. They don't even know that there is an alternative. It's just, I mean, look at any, I mean, yeah, it's concerning for sure. I mean, I see this in my family. My dad, I mean, the dude just sits there and doom scrolls all day on his phone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's an exception to
Uh-huh.
this rule. The universal posture around the world, I travel the world on a near weekly basis, but the universal posture of a human being is this:
Uh-huh.
thumbing through the phone, maybe taking a selfie, but for the most part, it's just hunched over, neck bent, staring
Uh-huh.
at a screen and consuming
Uh-huh.
God knows what. So when in your background, you talk about AI ethics, for example. I'd love your opinions on like where does this go? Like what even are ethics when everything is customized and fed to you in a very personalized algorithmic manner? Like what do ethics even mean on an individual basis?
Those are very, very good questions. I tend to separate the ideas of ethics, which tends to be more associated with the construct of regulation. So, what are the
Mm,
laws we all have to follow, kind of thing, versus morals, which I would argue is a bit more individualized. That I would argue is also more subjective, culturally dependent, temporally and contextually dependent. And the challenge with that is, and this is kind of the bigger challenge I have with a whole bunch of my peers in the ethics space is that we don't have universal norms. First of all, we don't have universal norms on regulation, for sure.
correct.
So throw that out the window. And when it comes to morals, depending on where you are and who you are in the world, certain conversations are not had. The fact that my hair is uncovered, the fact I'm speaking to you may not be necessarily appropriate. This is where I think that having the one AI to rule them all or having a winner take all mentality in the technology space is not the best way to go because there's always going to be hyper local nuances that have to be taken in care that have to be taken into account, which is why I tend to volunteer for vulnerable populations, for marginalized populations. Who's building the technologies for them? Who's making
Right.
the accessible for them? I would say, though, when we talk about morals, this is what we're bringing it back to the beginning of the conversation. What do I do when I'm putting the mask on for myself, when I'm starting to feel overwhelmed with all of this technology change or just change in general? I focus on what is important to me is that every day, every conversation, I do my very best and I fail epically. The people who know me personally can tell you the stories in which I've failed epically, but I do my best to try to practice acknowledging human dignity. And that's the best I can do. And I hope that by setting that example and sharing it, people can make choices about how that idea expresses for themselves in their own communities. And so it's a bottoms up exercise. I'm so sorry it doesn't come top
Yeah.
down. And on top of that, what makes a lot of people uncomfortable, you're not going to necessarily see your neighbor's answers. That's okay.
Right.
We're going to have to extend a little bit of trust.
Yeah. That is interesting. You know, it's hard to explain what a neighbor is too these days,
Mhm.
right? When I
Yeah.
grew up, I knew my neighbors, they knew me. You know, I remember in my neighborhood, right? It's a mix. I mean, Salt Lake City's a mix of Mormon and non-Mormon, but Mormon is the predominant culture here. And the thing is, at least unlike I think a lot of other towns or geographies, like you do understand where at least half the population is coming from,
Mm.
and you know at least how they approach things. And I think from a moral perspective, they're actually very very kind people. I'm not Mormon, but a lot of my neighbors are. You know, I was at one of their events just the other day, and it was cool. It was wholesome actually, just hanging out, drinking soda, talking about you know just life really, right? And I think that's cool, but that's missing a lot now too. Um, you know, I for the longest time I haven't gotten to know a lot of my neighbors. I don't know who they are. You know, the guy
Okay.
next door to me, he's like, I talked to him like once, I think, in the entire time I've lived here and owned this house for like 10 years. I don't think he wants to be talked to. Every time I try and talk, he just like walks away. He's
Okay.
older, right? Maybe it's just me. I don't know. He's probably just just grossed out. But it, you know, maybe that's just, you know, how it is here. But yeah, just getting to know people on a local basis, I feel is it feels like I don't know what your opinion is. It feels like that's even becoming more challenging than it used to because that was the norm back in the day, pre-internet. Was you had no choice. You would go to community events.
Mhm.
You know, you would do this or that. You know, I grew up in a small town. Community service there.
Mhm.
You know, for kids that would get in trouble, like myself
Yeah.
and others. Yeah, I mean, they were a bit harsh. One of my friends, this is in Wyoming. This is really gonna blow. You know, this was back in the '90s, but his community service for I think destroying the golf course lawn, is he
Oh.
had to go work at the rodeo all summer during the you know, with bulls and big horses, and shock them with the cattle prod to get them irritated for the bull riding competition. That was his community service. And I was like, that's very Wyoming in the '90s. Like,
Okay.
but we're just like, this is nuts. I'm not sure what you're trying to accomplish with this community endeavor, but it makes for fun stories, and these stories you will not have them. They don't exist anymore. Probably for a good reason. Um, but this is the kind of stuff that you would have back then. Now I don't
Mhm.
even know what community service would look like. You know, if you got in trouble or if you wanted to go volunteer somewhere, it's a lot different now. You know, I'll go down and help with the homeless shelter once in a while,
Mhm.
and I think that's cool. But even then, half the interactions are virtual. You
Mhm.
know, I don't get a chance to. It's more like donate money here if you want to show up.
Mhm.
Here's the time slot you can go show up. It's like okay,
Mhm.
it's very clinical.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know.
I think
It's a
you're
bit of a tangent, but
I think you're pointing to something that I've also been observing when it comes to groups and community and people trying to get together. I think as a result of technologies helping us to facilitate these events, instead of back in the day, you would have the neighborhood barbecue or the
mhm.
neighborhood pie eating contest or whatever, where everybody just came and heard by word of mouth. Now, because technology kind of facilitates this, I'm finding that as a second order consequence or implication, individuals show up to these things not from a place of, oh, okay, we're going to create a
Mm.
belonging. They come to these events and places and spaces with almost a transactional mindset.
Yeah, you're so right. I've seen this too.
And that forces the conversations to be superficial. first of all.
Yeah.
Second, when things are transactional to start off the bat, it makes it challenging sometimes to build some of those trust signals. And then also, when things are transactional, it puts more onus on the individuals involved to take that extra step to actually make it more relational as opposed to transactional. And again, that takes effort. And is everyone going to do it? No. So then it degrades the whole experience for everyone because now it's kind of a ticketed party, but nobody's really connecting kind of thing.
Yeah, you're so right. Like I remember I was at an event in Phoenix a couple weeks ago. I was hosting just a tech kind of a low key tech event there, and some
What does
gentleman
low
was
key mean?
low
And
key.
in that
Low key
market.
in this sense means no vendor pitching,
Okay.
right? So that eliminates at least part of that transactional piece. Go there, meet other practitioners or professionals, have a good time, right? Just get
Okay.
to know people in your area.
Okay.
One guy comes up and he walks up to me and he pulls out a sheet of paper, just several sheets stapled together. And he starts reading from it, like, "Hi, I'm so and so. I have these skills, blah blah blah." I thought, can you can put that away and just tell me who you are? Like, I don't
Yeah.
need the sermon or the sales
Yeah.
pitch. So, but it felt very off-putting, right? And then I remember another event I was at in Australia, in Perth. It's just an after-hours mixer, right?
Okay.
People are just hanging out, having drinks. This guy shows up with a pile of resumes and starts handing them out to people.
His resume.
Yes, his resume. It'd be weird if it's somebody else's.
You know what?
But I don't know. But his resume.
Okay.
But I had to pull him aside. I was like, I appreciate the effort, but this isn't really going to be effective for you to do this here, right? So
Yeah.
just be a person. Go hang out.
And
Weird.
I'm curious, is it because in digital land, in virtual land, we violate temporal boundaries, meaning it seems to be
Mm.
on all the time, so there's no turning it off. We violate spatial boundaries, meaning if you're in Singapore or if you're in Delhi or you're here in the US, in Utah, you can still connect, doesn't matter. So you can
Yep.
still have a conversation. By doing those violations, have we also violated social norms, meaning people are unlearning, wait, we don't pass our resumes around during happy hour. Or I recognize you might be very, very nervous speaking to strangers, but reading off a piece of paper, your skill sets and job qualifications may be not a first date type of thing.
Speak for yourself. Just kidding.
I know.
I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. But that's a good question. So I don't know if it's biased towards tech people, and I hate to be that guy who's stereotyping, but some tech people aren't known for being the best at social skills or cues. So there's part of that going on.
Okay.
It, but the broader social norms, if I were to go back in time to pre-internet days, when I grew up, I was part of that last generation that remembers like before the internet. I mean, it was there right when it happened too. You could see the shift happening. I think that the norms became, you could say stuff to people that you wouldn't say to their face. You could do things to people that you would never ever dare do to them in person,
Mm-hmm.
right? But when you're behind a keyboard, you can say this most god awful shit to somebody
Mm-hmm.
and behave just in the most unhinged ways. Like I said, if I were to come up to you and behave that way, you'd probably politely tell me off or slap me, one of the two, right? But that's normal. I see it on even sites like LinkedIn, which supposedly have some sort of a decorum. I see that's I mean, it's become a dating site. It's become really bizarre. Like a lot of my female friends are telling me just the most god awful things they're getting from men on there, and that's supposed to be a professional networking site. So it's so what I guess it's an interesting question that you bring up, or interesting thing you brought up about social norms, because like what the hell are those even right now?
Yes.
I don't
I'll
know.
give you another conundrum to think about. I find it very interesting recently how people will assume that having an AI companion on a Zoom call or a Google Meets call or Teams or whatever platform you're using it's cool. It's cool. And so I find the assumption of consent that you're going to be recorded, the
Mm,
assumption of consent that not the person you're trying to have interaction with will try to interpret your message, but the machine will on their behalf.
right.
I guess we're all agreeing to this now. I don't
Oh, I
know.
block
It's
them. I
very
block them. When I see
block.
those,
Okay, you
when I see
proactively
them
block.
show up in the meetings I host, I actually deny the
Okay.
AI companion entry.
You don't
I'm
even
like,
offer them an opportunity to ask you for
well,
consent?
no, they always send the AI companion first as a meeting starts,
Okay.
and they're late to the meeting, or they don't show up, right? So I'm like, well, I want to meet
Okay.
with you, not your companion. And what's
Yeah.
also interesting, I've been hearing this from people who do webinars, is people don't show up to webinars anymore. They actually send their AI companions to go take notes on the webinar. Oh, I thought that was it's like, okay, from a marketing lead gen standpoint, this gets very weird. Yeah.
Like very, very weird. And I hang out in the higher ed space. What happens when the professor decides to have their AI speak to the student AIs on the
You
online
joke.
course?
That was actually a scene in this 80s movie, Real Genius. So it's about some kids that go to, I think it was Caltech or something, but there was a scene in the movie I'll never forget because I grew up in the 80s watching this, and it was literally back then tape recorders. Students had tape recorders in the desk, and the instructor had a tape of his lecture playing, and there was nobody in the class. And I thought, oh, that's pretty funny. That's absurd. Could happen. Oh no, it's totally happening now. You could just have your synthetic, Cecilia bot giving a lecture. At which point it's kind of like, what's the whole point? Just give the transcript that can be
Yeah.
fed into other LLMs and just call it a day. Why do you need to go through the effort of even having an audio recording of it?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's
I
where
hear
we
you.
are, though. It's weird because content, if I've been thinking a lot about what is the nature of content going forward when AIs are consuming most of the content either on their behalf or our behalf or both. It's a fundamentally different type of world, obviously, but we're
Mhm.
dealing with this right now.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So from like a learning standpoint, the concept of what is a knowledge graph, because we all build our own knowledge graphs organically, not the digital kind. And we build them by going through school. So we learn information, bits of information, and we attach it to different experiences and different understandings and different constructs. And that's how we build our perception of the world and how it works and continue to learn from that perspective. When that is summarized for you, or everyone is given the same knowledge graph because the AI is doing the summarization, how do you build that individualized experience? This is an open question that educators are thinking about now and are experimenting into now. The good news is we're going to learn new ways and more about ourselves, about how we actually obtain wisdom. So
Yeah.
information is very cheap. Data is also relatively cheap. Knowledge is getting cheaper as a result of all of this AI technology. Wisdom is the bit that's going to be a bit tricky that machines clearly don't have, and is where maybe some would argue, depending on who you speak to, and is not my personal opinion, some people would argue some humans don't have as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm looking at this app that my colleague Andrew made,
Okay.
but it's interesting. So he made this. I'm supposed to have one on myself actually coming out at some point, but he made this because he gets so many questions about careers,
Yeah.
and so he's like, "Well, I'll just make a bot that gives career advice instead of
Yes.
me having to field all these questions." So I thought that was interesting. He said it was way harder to build than he thought, so it wasn't a matter of just getting Andrew Ng's lectures and all this, but getting the AI, at least at the time when he made it, and this is several months ago, but it would give, you needed to have like an agentic workflow and have it think through the answers and more of a cycle because the original version, the answers are pretty bad. They were very generic. Like, you should go to school and learn AI. And it's like,
Mm.
yeah, dude, that's why I'm talking to you. So it's like, thanks for wasting my time. But yeah, I mean, but that's an early version of it. And the experiences are going to get better, right? But
Okay.
I guess, what does that mean?
So how about this? Positive spin, because I guess I'm
Yeah,
very positive.
yeah.
Out of all of this ambiguity and uncertainty, I think we are going to develop a new social norm around what it means to show up in person,
Hmm.
what it means to show up live. So the fact that we're having this conversation and I did not send my bot instead of myself to
Not that I
interact
know
with
of.
you. Fair, fair. We're going to have to figure out these credentialing. Authenticity and credentialing signals. I agree with you. That's a problem to solve for, a technical problem to solve for. But the fact that I'm making, let's assume I'm a person and I'm making this choice. I'm expressing to you a value I have on this experience to be live.
Yeah.
And if you get on a plane and you went to Arizona to go be with a whole bunch of colleagues and have that live event, or Perth or any other market, you are expressing a significant premium value of that experience. So you're communicating to others, gosh, this is so important to me. I will physically and temporally show up in person. We don't have that cultural norm yet. So that's why hybrid is kind of okay with everyone all the time, even though maybe it shouldn't. But I think we will get to that point where it's like, oh, it's kind of like the meeting the parents kind of date. It's going to be we're actually meeting in person.
Yeah.
We're not sending our bots to do all of the dating rituals. I think there was I don't even know if they're around anymore, but I think there was an app that was trying to kind of do the first rounds of pre-dating. So your bot would date somebody else's bot, sort of. And then based on whichever interactions kind of worked out, that's when they say, hey, maybe you can involve the real people.
I think my thing is if somebody asked me to do that, that'd be my first criteria that it's probably not a fit. So, you know what I mean? It's like this like proxy date. I mean, it sounds like something you do in junior high school or something, where you just have your friend go talk to their friend, and then they would negotiate
Yes,
a meeting, an intro meeting,
that's true.
pass on some notes. It's like, but this is what techies want to do too. Is it's like we want to have technology. You mentioned the therapy part too, and it's like we want to have technology solve what at the end of the day are just very nitty gritty human problems and just habits and rituals we've done for thousands of years. And you're seeing this in the I haven't used a dating app for ages. I am married, but like I've been reading that younger generations aren't using apps as much because it's just not seen as cool, right? I know my son, he's 15, he's in high school. I hope so right now, as we record this. But him and his friends they're actually like anti-social media. They don't like it, and they don't like
Mm.
AI. They
Discord.
pejoratively call it clankers. They don't like the
Mhm.
so I heard the term clanker when I was driving my son and his friend around, and they're like, oh yeah, this one guy in our class, he's dating a clanker right now. I was like, what does that mean? He's like, it's an AI girlfriend. I thought, huh, that's a thing. Okay, interesting. But they want nothing to do with it. They rather just go hang out, and that's about it. So I don't know
Okay.
if we're going back to old school. At least maybe they are. But it sounds like with him and at least his friend group, they don't they don't like social media. They think it's the devil. To which I'm like, awesome. Please stay
Okay.
the hell off it as long as you can.
Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
I'm curious now. Discord is that I think the original intent, and now I'm dating myself, part of the original excitement around things like Facebook, less so MySpace, but more Facebook, was these people that I totally lost their phone number. No, it's not in my mobile phone. No, it's not in the Rolodex. It's not lost contact. I was able to find them again and
Yeah,
reconnect. And for some social circles, that may be the only way of contact.
for sure.
And so the social networks as a means of facilitating interpersonal communication, I think that's still a benefit.
Hmm.
Is there the right way to do it without creating this kind of negative propensity towards kind of the outcomes that we typically get from most social
For
media
sure.
platforms? We haven't figured that out. We haven't figured that out because we don't know how to monetize it properly. But
Yeah,
maybe that's a new opportunity for a business model to figure out how do we
absolutely.
not make it exploitative.
I would love that. Yeah. I mean, I run a Discord server, which is kind of
Okay.
funny. So it's like what 2,300 people in there, and I set but I think for me it's about setting the culture as well.
Yeah.
It's the group I oversee, so I do have a list of rules: be respectful, no vendor stuff, no overt sales. It's a big no-no because I've seen that destroy a lot of other communities. And just be
Mhm.
genuinely curious and generally helpful to other people. And it's been great so far. I think it's managed to I think, become self-aware in the sense where people just understand the kind of implicit rules and the norms of that. But I'm just looking at what destroyed other digital communities, and a lot of it was just overt salesmanship. Just I think allowing certain behaviors that if you get one instance of it, it's the old broken window argument, right? If you get one instance of it,
Yeah.
you're going to let this happen every time. So just don't. But it's so I think it's been positive. I think a lot of people like it, but that's just one example, right? So
Yeah. And you do all the moderation. You manage all of that yourself.
I would say most of it. I do have a team of moderators and I've not revealed them either. That's the thing. So nobody knows
Yeah,
who they
that's
are,
fine.
but they know there's mods. But I'm like, you're not going to know. So
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
keeps everyone just kind of just focused. But yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, I agree. I like to keep things positive. It's easy to, I think, to get caught into the negative doom loop, and there's no shortage of things to which you could pay attention to in that area. But
Lots
that's
of
just it. There's always going to be another thing to look at tomorrow. So like, what does it matter?
what matters about tomorrow? Well, we cannot predict it, and we don't know what will happen, but we can
This is
focus
it.
on today and
Yeah,
now.
exactly. Well, Cecilia, it's been wonderful talking to you. If I'm ever in New York, I will hopefully build a meet up with you and get a cup of coffee or something. So
Yes, maybe not in the summer. The aroma.
that's my favorite time to go. I'm kidding. But locally grown. So for people who want to learn more about you, how can they find you?
Yes, I do hold a Substack, a Signal and Connection. I just recently changed the name. It was formerly
Oh
Authentic
yeah.
Interactions.
Nice.
You can also find me on LinkedIn, and pretty much that's it. I am
Okay.
not super into socials. I'm
No, please don't apologize. Yeah, it's a good Substack too. I do recommend it. So
sorry. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
yes, thank you.
All
All
right,
right.
thank you for having
Have
me.
fun. Yeah, of course.
All
Take
right,
care.
thank
Bye.
you.